Please welcome Anthony Bellau from Preservation Capital in conversation with Neville Kahn, Chairman of Norwood.
Hi everyone, it's Neville Kahn here from Blandford Capital, dialing in from our offices here where we are coming into the office. I'm also, as you may be aware, the chair of Norwood. It's a great privilege and very proud to be so. And I'm also very, very happy and proud to be introducing to you Anthony Bellau today, who'll introduce himself, who's been active within Norwood for quite some time. Hi, Anthony.
Hi, how are you, Neville?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you, on this sunny day.
Yeah.
Anthony, why don't we start with you just telling us a little bit about your career and also a little bit about Preservation Capital, where you are now.
I'm Anthony Bellau. I'm a senior principal with Preservation Capital, and actually I've been here since the beginning of the year, so joined at a really quite interesting time, just before, about a month before we went into lockdown. So that had a few challenges associated with it, but needless to say, I'm still hanging on. I've been in private equity now for about 14 years. I started my career actually back in '99 as a lawyer. I was a corporate lawyer with Clifford Chance. Went through law for a number of years, then moved into management consultancy and then into private equity since 2007. We're a lower mid-market fund. We have about just over 300 million actually of funds under management, and we focus on the financial services sector. So what we describe as asset light or services businesses into financial services. There's things like insurance, wealth management, some financial technology businesses.
It's interesting, the term middle market can mean different things to different people. Tell us about what does middle market fund mean in a financial services context?
A middle market typically gives an indication of size of deal. So at least in our definition, middle market means we're looking at businesses which are valued at probably somewhere between 50 and 500 million pounds. So in profit terms, or EBITDA being the metric we use, that would be 5 to 30, 40 million pounds worth of annual EBITDA or profits.
You've been in different organisations. You were a lawyer. You've been in consulting. Been in a couple of different private equity firms. When you look back over those years, there's probably many, but just give us maybe one or two of the. I'm really proud. I'm really glad I was involved in that deal, or that sort of thing happened.
It's tough to focus on one in particular. I think there's a sense of achievement every time you get a deal over the line. You can spend literally months working on a deal. You can work sometimes particularly late nights, weekends or whatever it might be. And you're building up a relationship with people. You're kind of working to get to a long finish line. So in my career, I've done probably 10, 12 deals. And actually each one of those, in a way, feels like a bit of a success. When you build up and then get to the end and you sign, you complete the deal as it's called, then, as you all know, Neville, you've done a few more than me, I know, in your time, then actually getting to completion is the real sense of achievement. And I've been lucky enough to do it across a range of sectors. So I've invested in education businesses, so private education, private schools. I've invested in healthcare businesses, so vet businesses, home care. So I've had a range of deal types, and sort of each one has got its own.
Yeah.
Special sounds a bit cliche, but each one has got its own sort of.
Okay. But it's getting the deals out. And by the way, steady on me doing too many deals. I'm only just turning 40. You know that, don't you?
You and me both.
Yeah. I wish. Look, I see. I think it's fascinating when you're in deal mode, because when I was in professional services and now I'm in investing mode, it's one thing buying a business. There's always some excitement about that, but of course, that's great. But that's when the work just starts, right? Because you're buying something in order to add value, and then the real excitement is the exit, isn't it? Really, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I suppose one of the analogies I sometimes draw when I'm talking to people who don't know private equity is it's a bit like buying a house. You've got, and you can buy different types. There's the whole range. You can buy flats, you can buy big houses, small houses, you can buy yourself a wreck. You can buy yourself something that's kind of stable, hasn't, isn't falling down, and you've got a bit of work to do to it. I mean, the kind of assets and kind of businesses that we buy, I describe as good, solid, nice house, good road, lots of potential, but we still want to have stuff to do to it. That is the excitement. It's the
good to great type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So that leads nicely. So this morning in the Times, there was a big article, in the business section, and I'm going to read out the headline. Says, "Is private equity good for business?" Because look, we have seen some fantastic stories about how private equity has invested in businesses, they've grown, created value, etc. However, there are the situations where they say, "Oh, you guys, you only put in a small amount, you leverage it up with banks' money, then you take out all your money, and then they go bust." So there's two sides of that. So how would you say, what's the answer to the question, is private equity good for business?
I think there's definitely segments of private equity where actually it's not good for business, because it's more about leveraging, putting out as much bank debt on as you can. But I think there's other parts of private equity, which is where I like to think I operate, which is about job creation, which is about growing businesses, which actually is about bringing external skill sets and other people and growth strategies to businesses that don't exist. Some of the businesses I have invested in and look to invest in, I tend to describe them as they're a bit like teenagers kind of growing out of their clothes. They've grown from being a very small operation to something more substantial, but they haven't built up the infrastructure around them to grow with that. It's our job as investors to help them do that.
And clearly you've got to be careful from a confidentiality perspective, but can you tell us about maybe any of the deals in the past which you would think would be a good example of that, whether it's one of your previous institutions?
I mean, a good example would be we invested in a vet business. So actually it's what's called a buy and build. So what we did is we buy a platform, which is a small group of vet practices. And then what we were then able to do is go and add more practices through acquisition. So we increase the scale of the group. What that does is, and then we put in a sort of a operating infrastructure around it. So we bring in more experienced senior leadership, people who can help the business operate more effectively. We bring in systems, so back office systems, computer IT systems, essentially to help drive things like purchasing, scheduling, and overall that results in a better infrastructure to support a larger business. That creates jobs, that improves profitability and creates jobs, which is, for me, a good result. That's the kind of result that we look to achieve. And so it's a model which is repeatable. It's not necessarily defined. It worked in vet businesses, but we've done it. I've seen it done in others.
One of probably our most recent investment here at Blandford is a nursery school, which is a buy and build, which is sort of a pretty well trodden sort of path for other private equity businesses. But it's fantastic to say we're at 6 and we want to get to sort of 25 in the next probably 3 years. And it's about getting, best in class, bringing things through and obviously improving them. What we're trying to do, whether it be private equity or private investment that we do here, is to put our financial and personal operational type skills to play in order to help businesses grow. And typically, as they grow, they get better. However, it's not nothing's ever guaranteed, is it?
It doesn't always work. It doesn't always work, and I guess you'll have seen that particularly from your previous background. You make the business better, you improve the quality, you can attract better talent, which improves the business more, which means it grows more. So you hope, and at least that's the goal in trying to achieve.
So, Anthony, you've spoken about the industry as a whole being private equity. But Preservation Capital, I understand, obviously specialises in financial services. So tell us a little bit around that financial services market, what particularly interests you and Preservation Capital about FS.
Happy to do that. Financial services, we look at insurance service-related businesses, things like insurance brokers. We look at things in, say, wealth management. We look at things in financial technology. So really, service businesses, often people businesses, which are into the financial services industry. It becomes a little bit complex to explain in that way, a little bit of a tongue twister. It's a great sector, and actually one which, on the whole, has been relatively unscathed by the disruption we've seen over the last few months. We fundamentally like it as a sector because it's one that's strongly regulatory driven. And when you're looking at businesses, we want to find things which have got drivers behind them, which means they're going to keep growing. So if you've got regulatory drivers, then kind of irrespective of what's going on in the rest of the world, you've got to keep up with pace.
What would your advice be to young Norwood people who are looking to maybe get into this sort of stuff?
A big part of what we do is going to meet people, going to meet entrepreneurs, going to meet business owners, and going to meet management teams and building relationships with them. So you've got to want to do that in the first place. And I think there's ways of building that as a skill over time. And that's you get exposure to people in professional environments, whether that's in some sort of other professional environment, as an accountant, a corporate financier, a consultant, those kind of things. So actually, it's trying to find a route where you're using and sort of working on those skills. I think the other big piece for me is developing a toolkit that's useful. So actually, if you look across the professions that tend to be the ones that drop most easily into private equity, it's people with accountancy backgrounds or qualifications, people with corporate finance, which often come from accountancy or banking, or consultants. So all of those bring with them some sort of I call it basic toolkit, which help you understand and think about different types of businesses. How do those businesses work? What makes them tick? How can you think about improving them?
As an industry, if you do well, you can accelerate through very, very quickly. It's got less formal sort of hierarchical structures that you would find in consultancies or professional services.
Absolutely. You have it's as you hope it's entrepreneurial. You have the chance to be entrepreneurial. You can. I've worked with a range of people. I've worked with some superb junior guys who are going out finding their own deals. Which is absolutely brilliant. There's kind of no boundaries for where you want to be. It's about what you put into it.
I think when you're in this sort of business, use your contacts, and if it's all about a network. And one of the pieces of advice I would have, in any business, use your contacts, use your network as you go around doing business or you're doing your work. Figure out who you're seeing, and make that connection and keep in contact, because you never know when those contacts can be of use.
I think that's a brilliant point. And you know what I mean? I think there's times when I look back when I think, could I, would I, should I? Should you either maintain that contact, or sometimes even, for us, we can find a new deal opportunity, something that other people don't have, that other people can't see. It's great. But the way to find those is through these sort of very unusual roundabout ways. It might be from someone who you bumped into 3 years ago at a drink. So actually making those efforts to maintain contact with people and using the connections is massively valuable.
And Young Norwood is a great platform for that, for everyone.
I've done exactly the same. Obviously I sit on the Norwood Private Equity Committee. I used to do it when I was young. So I've been on that now for about 10 years. And that started off as we would have I think it was the Meridian Hotel in Piccadilly, we'd have a drinks event for about 50 people. We're now, the last 3 years, we've had dinners at a nice hotel, apart from this year, unfortunately. We've had dinners at a nice hotel on Park Lane with 300 people coming along. And we're a strong group sort of across the various different parts of the private equity industry. And the network and connections that come through that, and people come to the dinner every year. They like meeting up. They sort of recognise it as part of the calendar now. But that just shows the strength that the network can bring.
I really want to bring this to an end, so I think our time is up. To thank you, Anthony, for for giving us a little bit insight into not just your life, but also private equity forum, but also to thank all of you for watching and listening to us today. And if I could, just one encouragement, just keep being involved. And please God, that's with Young Norwood or other organisations, because you'll see that whatever you give, you'll get a great return on investment, as we would say in our industry. So thank you all and have a great year.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you, Neville. Really enjoyed talking to you.